Hi everybody, sanibonani, welcome to my channel. Igama lami nguNtando Mdletshe, and on this channel siyasibuka ama-reality shows ethu ala eMzansi bese siza la sokwenza ama-reviews or ama-recaps bese siyaphinda futhi sikhuluma any other issues avukayo mangabe lama-shows sesiwabukile kwi-TV. Siyaphinda-ke futhi sikhulume ngama-celebrities ethu kanye nama-YouTubers ethu. Uma ngabe uqala usijoyina namhlanje and you happen to like our content, do not forget to press the subscribe button below and also press the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we do post new work. Today I want to talk about the Siko Twins. We did talk about the Siko Twins so much on this show, on this channel, yet where it is a show. Maybe I'm seeing the future. We're going on TV. On this channel, when we were doing the review of the reality show Twice as Bold, it was a nice show. I liked watching it, but I realized that not a lot of people like the show, and a lot of people had an issue with the impilo epilo their lifestyle, and their life seems to be focused so much on finding a man. But I just watched this interview from the Hustlers Corner SA, a podcast DJ Sbu, where they actually explained that a little bit. And I understood why the show was focused so much on them finding a man, you guys. So I'm gonna share what I learned from that interview. I'm sure a lot of you have watched that interview, because I think as it stands it's at over 25,000 views. People are really working here on YouTube, okay? So it's over 25,000 views. So I'm sure, like, you know, my two viewers, I'm sure a lot of my two viewers have gone and watched that interview, you guys. But I want to discuss a few things. I'm not going to review the whole interview. But it was a great interview. They are so easy to watch. I don't want to lie. They are so easy to watch. It's enjoyable to watch them. It's enjoyable to listen to them. I really like the way that DJ Sbu conducts my interviews, because he's usually just open to talking about anything and everything when it comes to guest. So he doesn't limit guest, and he's not the type of an interviewer that wants to talk a lot and over talk the guest. So when he gets a guest that can speak about anything and everything, it really just becomes an amazing interview. I think he's an amazing interviewer. I like watching his interviews. So there are two very important issues that they talked about, one more important than the other, but I'm going to talk about just one that clarifies what happened with their show, and then the other one, it concerns gender-based violence, which I think is a very important issue. And it was so important for them to share that experience. And also I think that it's important for South Africa right now to hear that story from people like them, and because I didn't know the details of the story of what happened in their marriage. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the clarity that I felt I got from how their show went. When they were doing their show Twice as Bold, obviously they were single women with kids. They're twins. They have very similar lives. They have two kids who are almost the same age, and they're looking for a man. That was the focus of the show. And it got to a point during the show where we just felt like it focused so much on finding this man. And remember, there are people that want to date the same people. They were in a marriage with one husband, and the marriage didn't work out. Apparently the person that they were married to is one producer of Umubango, so it's somebody that is very powerful in the entertainment space, and they got married to him. And they said that the reason that they got married to him was his approach was because they wanted to be in the entertainment space. He was going to help them to get famous and all of that, but he wanted to marry them first. They do not talk about them falling in love with this man or anything like that, but they got into that marriage because they felt like the marriage was going to get them where they wanted to be career-wise, and it didn't work out that way. The person never did what they thought he was going to do as far as their career is concerned in the entertainment space. On top of that, it went sideways, So they say that the idea to do a reality show had come up even when they were married to the men, and it had been an interesting story for the producers that wanted to do the show, because there were two sisters that were married to the same man. So they wanted to do the show with them at that time when they were still married to this man. But this man, since he had never had plans for them to be in the entertainment space, and also it would have been difficult for them to hide the abuse while doing a reality show, he did not want them to do the show. So for the longest time, he prevented them from doing the show. He didn't want to do the show himself, but he also didn't want them to do the reality show. And that is the reason they never, it took so long for them to do the reality show. Now it came to a point where they actually got divorced, left that man, they got divorced, and now they were pursuing the dream of doing a reality show. But now the feedback that they were getting is that your story has become less interesting now because there is no man. It's like their life was more interesting while they were having this man that they were sharing. That was going to be the main storyline of the show, is that they're married to the same man, they're sharing this man. How is it going? So now that he was no longer there, their life was not as interesting to the people that wanted to produce the show. But they do say that after a while they were approached nonetheless by one producer, and when his approach as well was that, I don't know how we're gonna do this reality show, because I think that it was going to be more interesting with you guys having a man. So how about we do a storyline where you are looking for a man since you are single? And they didn't see a problem with that, because they were single anyway. They had been single for a while, and in reality, the reality is they would like to find someone else. They still would like to date the same person. So that is why the show ended up being the way that it was, I think, because that was the main story line that was created for them. The reality show was based on them finding a man. That's why we felt like they talked so much about finding a man on that show. They part about finding a man, about finding a man. It was just too much. But I feel like they did not have a choice, because that's what the show was supposed to be about. But they do say that they were hoping that they were going to be able to show other things about their lives. They are fitness instructors, they are mothers, they have friends, and we did get to see that on the show. It's just that they focused more on them finding a man. And honestly, I do think that now that I know that, we can't blame them so much that the story focused on that. I think the producers of the show assumed that as viewers, we would like to see that more than we would like to see them just do other things, work, and go to the gym or whatever. They just assumed that we would like to see the finding a man story more than anything else. So that explains it for me as to why the show went the way that it went. Okay. But then again, they do get into the second issue that I'm going to talk about, which is how things went in their marriage. Remember, they're married to this producer who was way older than they were. They were virgins when they got married. They were 21 years old. They got married to somebody that at no point do they mention that they fell in love with this man. It looked like a transaction marriage where they wanted to get famous. This was the person that had a ticket for them to get into the industry, and they decided to marry him. Guys, I might have understood it differently. Go and watch and see how you understand it, but that's how I understood it. There's nothing in there that they say we liked him, we fell in love with him, he was so cute. No, he was just somebody that had a ticket for them to get into the industry, and they felt like, and he could provide, because it seemed like it's somebody that's very powerful, he's financially stable, he could provide for them, and they really did live a good life financially in terms of material things while they lived with him. But the transaction didn't go very well, because they gave themselves to him. Obviously, he's the one that broke their virginity, and then they had kids with him. They were his wife, but he wasn't giving them the other side. So it's like they kept their part of the deal, which was marry him, but he never kept his part of the deal, which was help them get into the industry. They said that there's a lot of things that they've always wanted to do in the entertainment space, but they never got to do them. They're talking about how even in earlier days when Sbu used to do that show where was it Friends Like This, they used to go there almost every day to be in the audience because they were trying to get into the industry. So while in that marriage that never happened, and in fact this man didn't want them to pursue their dreams, and it got to a point where relationship itself was just abusive. But it got really really horrible because they said that at some point he would even threaten to kill them and kill their children. They talk about an incident where he was trying to burn the house down and with them inside, and the only thing that stopped him was because he couldn't find the box of matches to burn the house, and it was somewhere they could see it, he just couldn't find it, and it was like 4 hours of him looking for this box of matches and he couldn't find it. He was going to burn the house down with them and their children inside. They talk about an incident where they were living in a flat and he would sometimes grab both the babies and threaten to throw them out the window. I don't know how many floors it was, but and it made me think of that movie where Whoopi Goldberg, I think Whoopi Goldberg is in that movie, where a husband to this lady, while they're fighting, just takes a child and throws the child down the block of flats, and the baby dies. Like, what is it? Something about something of a colored woman. I can't remember. It's a Tyler Perry movie. It's that I imagine that scene when they were explaining what he would do. They say he would grab their babies like that and he would threaten to throw them out the window. And it sounded like they were staying in a block of flats, so they were not on the ground floor. So had he done that, obviously the children wouldn't have survived. So, and they make it clear that he did want to kill them, that at some point they really just wanted to move out of the house. They wanted to leave their relationship and they had to forget about into abantu bazothini and just move out. They remember, they say their clothes were packed in black plastic bags and they moved out to go and stay in like a one-bedroom house with their kids, and that's when he stopped maintaining the kids. Honestly, and they also say about him that he would always come back and apologize, and then he will also always come back and say he does not remember, which I don't believe, but I do not know. They say that I do not believe that he did not forget. It's not that I don't believe them. I don't believe that he will not forget. He will not remember. He will forget that he did that. So that's what they will go back, and then but at the end they decided it's time to live. I'm so glad that they did that, you guys. And then they talk about how their lives changed from, remember, they were with this rich man, now they're alone. He's also not maintaining their lives, he's not maintaining the kids, so things were different, but they decided to just start over, you guys. It's a great interview to watch, especially if you're in a situation where you just got out of an abusive relationship and you are feeling hopeless and you are even having thoughts to go back to that relationship because you're feeling like life is difficult without that person that you're trying to run from. Watch that interview because they basically started over. The show is basically them starting over. I'm disappointed that in the show they don't make that the basis of the show, because it would have done so well had they just made that the basis of the show, them coming out of a very abusive relationship and starting over with nothing, because that's what the show is. The life that you see them live on the show is because of the budgets that they got to do the show. Remember when the show begins, they move to a new place, and I think that's the reason they use that money to actually improve their lives. Anyway, you guys, so it's a great story to watch. Also, if you are in an abusive relationship, that sometimes it's better to walk out, and to save your life. Maybe they wouldn't be alive today if they were still in that relationship. Their kids will still not be alive if they were still in that relationship. Yes, it was financially comfortable, but what is the comfort when you're not happy and now and then you are abused like that? So I like that, you guys. I like that you can always start over. That's what I learned from their interview, that you can always start over. And also, you guys, with these relationships with these rich men, there's always a price to pay. And I think that's a lesson as well. When I watched Cyan Bush's interview, that if you listen, you know, they say read between the lines. If you listen between the lines, the lesson there is just that yes, you're gonna get all of these fancy things, but there's always a price to pay. So think about that before you get into these relationships. And also, when you're already in and you're like, okay, like I'm in a big ish here, I need to get out, that, you know, make a plan to get out before you lose your life, you guys. Anyway, you guys, they're doing amazing things. I'm sure that the show, I didn't hear them talk about the next season of the show. I'm hoping the next season of the show is coming. They do talk about them doing a lot of emceeing at events. I just saw one event that was advertised on Instagram, and they are the MCs there. So it looks like they're working now. So I mean, it worked for them to just start over. So you can do it too. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it before Mpumegona. Share it with your friends, with your family, and even with strangers. Ntando kakhulu.